Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Rslash Tales from Tech Support. In today's episode, who needs password security anyways? When the CEO is too busy. Pluggable clipboard. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Who needs password security anyways? Relatively short story. I was only supposed to help a user to access a network folder, which, because it's inside their user accounts, requires them to be logged in to do it. So I call user and he's like, "Oh, I'm currently having an external thing, and my computer is unoccupied. But I've told my colleague my password so he can do it with you." I wanted to throw up right then and there, but I figured it's not worth it for something that was only supposed to take 5 minutes. I can bring this up with the company later. So I call this colleague, and he's like, "Oh, I need to turn it on at first. So, it takes really long for the computer to boot, so can I just tell you his passwords so I don't have to sit here?" I think you can all relate that all I had to say to that was an exasperated sigh followed by a number. 2 minutes later I was done, and colleague was happy he could return to whatever it is what he was doing. I've learned that this customer apparently had employees tell support agents their passwords during calls unprompted before. So if anyone here has future plans as a cyber criminal, I know a good testing environment /s. We have sort of both sides of this with our users. On the one hand, they'll try to tell us their password so we can get into their computers to fix whatever, completely misunderstanding what we mean when we say we have our own admin credentials. On the other, we have people show up in our office because they forgot their password, then don't believe us when we tell them we have no idea what it was. They simply won't believe the system was designed so that we can't see their passwords. Me, it's them. No, it wasn't that. Me, hits reset password. Well, now it is. And the system forces a change at first use. This isn't even social engineering. This is spot the idiots. Hopefully these guys have no access to anything important, but then again, I know my old colleagues and accesses from call center days, credit cards, birthdays, car plates, travel times, what ya need. Spot the weak point, aka idiot, is the first step to good social engineering. I have an older family member that I was helping once tell me his password, and it was based around the equivalent of his social security number. There were other things tacked on, not just the number. I think that I convinced him that that was a bad idea on so many levels. No worries, support person. I don't use my good password Jordan 23 for work. I use 123456 because it's easy to remember. Hey, that's the code on my luggage. I have had users ask me to invent a password for them when it's time to reset so they can't mess up the special character requirements, and have had managers write their password down and hand the paper to me when I needed their authorization for something. Volunteering a password to save 2 whole minutes is a new one though. In my early days, I was on the phone with my ISP trying to figure out why my modem wouldn't get a signal. The tech I was speaking to couldn't gain access to the admin panel remotely either. I'm not sure if it was in his scripts, but his solution was to give me the admin login, so I could get into the ISP's remote admin panel locally. While this did allow me to get in and fix the problem, don't even remember what was configured wrong, I realized a day or two later that the login info I had worked on every modem from this company. And that every modem on the subnet I was on was from this company. I probably could have done some terrifying things with that, if I'd been inclined, including uploading new firmware to all of those boxes. Never looked further into that though, probably for the best. My favorite is always, "Hey, my password expired, so I was thinking, can't you just set it so that it never expires?" I can and I won't. Password expiration is dumb. It just leads to people making an easy password system or writing their password on a post-it. IMO password should only be expired if it might be compromised. Instead of expiring passwords, you could greatly increase security by enforcing 2FA. Password expiry and complexity requirements are stupid and against the recommendations of the NIST. Stop using sh*t that originated in the 1960s. sh*t have moved on since then. Used to have a problem like this in my company, school IT. Teachers were notorious for saying, "Well, I can't be away from my class, so here's a sticky note with my passwords," and then leaving their computer with me. I managed to retrain at least a few of them after setting their account in Active Directory to mandate a password change on the next login. Why is my account saying I have to change my password? Because the last one was compromised when you gave it to me in the open like that. But I liked that password. Then you shouldn't have compromised it. I hate when they say I liked that password, that means they use it on everything. Today a substitute teacher called saying the credentials I gave her for her email aren't working. Well, did they work for you to log into the computer? She responds, "Oh, I'm logged in the computer as the teacher will be subbing for the next 4 months." People just won't stop sharing passwords, and they're gonna be real pissed when I mandate 2-factor authentication for everyone to stop it myself. Can't you make him change his password being his old one is now compromised? Yeah, if that were me I would have checked user must change password at next login. But hopefully that login isn't the colleague, lol. When the CEO is too busy. Over the last 20 years I've worked for some major organizations from global electronics and telecoms to banking. This is not a brag but highlighting what I am about to share that has occurred to me in every organization which you would think would be more aware/switched on when it comes to the basics of security and the financial/reputational impacts. PA, personal assistant to CEO. PA, hello, CEO has a problem with their laptop, can you come up immediately? Although nearly always friendly, the above is the norm for info I get, so I trundle up being quite blind to what the actual issue is. Normally ranges from cannot find an email/doc, wants some software installed, forget about process and IT security, to the more serious of the mouse not working, adding a printer or something to stop the whole org from functioning. The laptop could be goosed in some way. Me, hello PA, what is the problem? PA, I'm not sure, I had a look, but I cannot figure it out, still not giving me much info. The CEO had to leave but left the laptop behind for you. Can you fix it quick? Me, okay, but I'll need to log on to the laptop and would be better to be with the CEO, as I need them to be logged on as themselves and give me more info to the issue. PA, well, the CEO had to leave, I've their logon details, and I can call them for more info if you like. Pulls out a notepad with current and all the previous passwords the CEO has used. End of story. What I'm wanting to share here that I am still quite surprised that the heads of a major org will A. Share their credentials with a PA. B. Allow others to log on as them to do/fix stuff in their absence. C. Have no real thought to the implications if the PA was to lose/give away the creds. D. Someone acted maliciously with them. And all under the guise that the CEO is too busy to deal with these issues. Grinds me more though that this is accepted and ignored, plus the rest of the workforce can get hauled over the hot coals for exactly the same. Not just CEO level, but I've seen further down the chain. Some people really do live in ivory towers with unicorns prancing about. Don't blueball us like the PA, what was the issue? He was having trouble finding the single lonely MILFs that kept getting advertised to him. He left so quickly because he was trying to catch one before she ran off like all the others. He installed 74 different registry cleaners. I can't imagine there's a CEO who would not share credentials with their PA. They need the PA to do things on their behalf. Just like back in the day, the PA would sign the CEO's name to forms or letters when directed. Of course, massive trust is required on both sides. I can't imagine there's a CEO who would not share credentials with their PA. This A-list celebrities are in the same boat. Their PAs probably know all sorts of information about them, social security numbers, etc., and have access and permission to their credit cards. It's my sister's birthday next week. could you order her some really nice flowers for me? It's terrible from a security purist standpoint, but given human limitations, need for sleep, etc., a necessary evil. CIO/CTO needs a quiet word with the CEO. You're assuming they're not just as guilty. Probably a safe assumption for smaller orgs, but for large ones. I have large org clients where the entire exec teams do this. They could not care less. If I had access to the CEO's computer, the first thing that I would do would be to email HR as the CEO, instructing them to give myself a pay rise. Just for yourself could be too obvious if discovered. If the IT department is big, instruct them to give the whole department a 10% raise. Check the standard paths an instruction like this would take, like controlling or financial, and intercept all answers before CEO can read them. Oh wait, that was a joke. Forget what I said, not that I have any experience in this. This is why the CEO never has admin rights. If he gives his password to people, and they use his account for stuff, that's his problem. But he can't screw up the organization's backbone, the tech it runs on. Exactly. At our org, none of the execs do, even the CTO. If you're not using admin regularly, you don't have rights. Put in a ticket for the sysadmin. Of course, if the CTO really needed access for business continuity or something, he could call the vendors and have them override to add him, but that's not the same as already having access for a whim or having credentials that can be stolen. We used to have a rule in one of my old departments: if you came across someone who left their PC unlocked, then you would send an email love letter to our senior manager. If you were able to sit down, access their Outlook, type the email, send it, and then lock the PC before leaving, then the user was too far from their PC to have left it unlocked as per corporate guidelines. That can backfire badly. I saw a guy do that to a sergeant's computer, sending a romantic email to some other random lady Marine. What the guy sending the email didn't know is that the sergeant was currently under investigation for sexually harassing that Marine. Dumb luck, the captain let him spend a week or two wondering if he was going to get NJP for it. My experience with PAs for CEOs is that they're basically an extension of the CEO's brain. Pretty much every one of them I've known has had every single piece of confidential info you could want to impersonate a person, and that's even got down to IT, with yous having to add send as permissions and such to the PA's email. They'll have every credit card hashtag, SSN, birthdate, security question answers, all the family phone numbers and contact info, etc. They book their flights and hotels, fill out their legal documents, etc. I've even helped set them up with shared password managers, so they could share MFA and updated passwords easily. Exactly this. One CEO called me his memory. I commented in another place that I've been called years after leaving if they need my help remembering something. Log on as the CEO and send a mail to the entire org that he is buying lunch for everyone next Friday. Then have the CEO imagine what else nefarious could be done instead. Use an external firm to do that, pen testing focused on social engineering of high-value personnel. You don't want to train the CEO to distrust IT. This is not unusual. I had to work with the admin of the C-level folks more than the folks themselves. It was just easier all around. Is it safe? It just was the way it was. My only thought was to make extra sure I did a thorough CYA. It's not as rampant now, since Octet exists, and I only do support if it's so bad someone has to smooth some feathers. I am still quite surprised that the heads of a major org will share their credentials with a PA. You must be new. If I've learned anything in 24 years of IT, it's that knowing how people work is way more important than knowing how computers work. And yes, CEOs usually share their login info because their PAs basically run the office. No telling how many times the CEO will call their PA to ask for some information from last week's email. But Tuna Man, you're thinking, doesn't the CEO have a phone with all his corporate email on it? Couldn't he just open Outlook for Android or Apple Mail and search for Profit and Loss Statement 2021? Yes. Yes, he does. But it's just easier if Pam does it. Besides, it's better for the company if Pam does it, since she only gets paid $45,000 per year, while Mr. Busy CEO is paid $8 million. I once worked for a company that had a somewhat unusual structure. They had a few locations in the US, and all of them were run as independent companies. So, company name, Georgia had their own CEO, CFO, CTO, just as company name, Michigan, and company name, Arizona had their own. The CEO of my branch loved useless gadgets, and no gadget was hotter at the time than the Palm Pilot. The CEO had jacked up his laptop so much that the Palm Pilot would rarely sync properly, and I would be called to his office 3 to 4 times a week to get it to work. Funny thing was, he was a Clemson grad, was super proud of it. He had this paw print screensaver. But it was a 16-bit screensaver. In Windows 98 you could press Ctrl plus Alt plus DEL, and get the list of running programs, and then shut down clemsver.scr and boom. You were in his computer. First his PA, then the CEO himself, sh*t bricks when they found out how easily the screensaver password prompt could be bypassed. But he really loved that stupid screensaver, to the point that I contacted the company to see if they were working on a 32-bit version that didn't have that vulnerability. Sadly, number 32-bit version was planned, and the CEO kept the screensaver anyway. Pluggable clipboard. This story happened in 2015, and is one of my most hilarious support cases. I worked in first-level support that day, and a team assistant, called TA in this text, called in on our support hotline. TA, can you please help me with my clipboard? I think it is broken. I can copy, but the paste drop-down stays disabled. Me, maybe there are some permissions missing to copy the files. Can you tell me the destination folder? TA, I don't think that this is the problem. I can create and edit files there. Nevertheless, I checked the permissions, of course. She was right. My first thoughts were that she really tried to solve it on her own, because without Googling she would not have used the term clipboard. Because she worked in the same building, I agreed to come over, get a coffee, and fix the problem. At her office I asked her to show me the problem. TA, look, I select this file, click with the right button on it, and choose copy. Everything okay so far. But then she plugged off her mouse from her computer, walked to another computer, plugged the mouse in, and right-clicked on an open folder. TA, see? Paste is disabled. In 2015, where clipboard history was not a thing in Windows, I laughed so hard, I had to buy her a cupcake for atonement. She really thought that the clipboard was stored on her mouse, because she clicked it with the mouse. I remember seeing a mouse a while ago that advertised this as a feature. When you think about it, would not actually be that hard to set up either. Tired, P is stored in the balls. Wired, clipboard is stored in the mouse. On Nintendo Wii, couldn't you transfer Mii avatars via the controllers between your Wii and a friend's? It's not that crazy a concept, although it's far from a standard feature of a mouse. The Dreamcast controllers went a step further. You could have an entire minigame stored on the memory cards which plugged into the controllers, and they had tiny screens. They also had tiny buttons, so you could play it without a controller, and you could plug 2 of them together for transferring files. So over-engineered and the best thing ever. No, it isn't a crazy concept at all. Today you can sync your clipboard over multiple devices. But it was not possible without custom software and extended knowledge, which she didn't had. There are custom keyboard firmware setups to do this, so it's not impossible by any means, but definitely not easy for normal end users. TBH, this is something you can just about do nowadays. But not BC, it's stored in the mouse, lol. A mouse with a clipboard built into it would be an interesting product. That's pretty funny. I guess I can kind of understand why you'd think the mouse had it in it. I'm actually a bit surprised I haven't heard of a mouse with this feature before. A mouse that can do its own C+P like this is exactly something that would have come out of Sharper Image in the late 90s. This isn't too far-fetched. I work in a manufacturing setting wherein one specific case data is generated on one machine and needs to be inputted into a production machine. To reduce the amount of space and number of copy/paste errors, there is one screen, keyboard, and mouse with a KVM switch between the two machines. The KVM switch comes with clipboard function, so you click copy on one machine, switch to the other machine and click paste, and it all transfers across. Reminds me of one of the dumbest calls I'd ever had. This was 20+ years ago. After troubleshooting ye old printer isn't working for about 20 minutes, I finally got him to focus enough to tell me exactly what he was doing. He would plug the parallel printer cable into the laptop, print, unplug the cable and carry it over to the printer on the other side of the room holding the ends up so the data didn't spill out, and plug it into the printer, where it would print. And it worked like that yesterday. 30 seconds of stunned silence. No, it didn't. It didn't ever work like that. Connect them with the cable and leave it connected. There was no printer server built into the cable, no store and forward memory or anything like that. It was a standard parallel printer cable. Did she just come up with a new brilliant feature for Miji? OP and TA worked for Logitech confirmed. This reminded me of that time I was tasked with replacing/upgrading a user's monitor. While I was unplugging the old monitor, she asked me to also copy over her desktop background and icons. I can see how that makes sense from the user's perspective, but it was so funny I still remember it over a decade later. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.